Obama didn't build that. Trump will be judged by the president's state of the economy in 2020. Hello, this is Robert Romano, Vice President of Public Policy with Americans for Limited Government, dailytorch.com. Hit that subscribe button. Today, we're going to be talking about the U.S. economy and the state of the presidential race in 2020 and whether or not President Trump will be receiving credit for 50-year lows in unemployment, rising wages, and sustained economic growth. It seems that some people want to rewrite history and even change the way voters are supposed to evaluate incumbents who are running for re-election, particularly in the White House. Usually an incumbent running for re-election will be judged on the present state of the economy, and I don't think it's going to be any different in 2020. I think President Trump will be judged by the state of the economy, and it's probably going to inure to his benefit with the unemployment so low, so many people finding jobs. And you've really seen sustained growth here. And I think it's going to come back to the president's trade policies. America First, the new reciprocal trade deals with Mexico, Canada, China, South Korea, and Japan, as well as the tax cuts and deregulation that have really the voters are going to think that's what's got the economy moving. I tend to agree. I think that that's definitely had a it's been helping. It's been boosting labor participation amongst working age adults 16 to 64 and prime working age as well, 25 to 54. People are coming back into the labor force that were out of it for much of the Obama administration. The only good year on labor participation you saw out of the Obama years was in 2016, and that was when he was on his way out. But most of the improvements we're seeing today have occurred since 2017 when President Trump took office. So let's take a look at some of these numbers here. Here you have Obama writing on Twitter. This is kind of what got this rolling here. On February 17th, he wrote, quote, 11 years ago today, near the bottom of the worst recession in generations, I signed the Recovery Act, paving the way for more than a decade of economic growth and the longest streak of job creation in American history. President Trump, naturally, he responded on February 17th saying, quote, on Twitter, did you hear the latest con job? President Obama is now trying to take credit for the economic boom taking place under the Trump administration. He had the weakest recovery since the Great Depression, despite zero Fed rate and massive quantitative easing. Now, best jobs number ever. And Trump wants credit for the economy. This has naturally led to a cycle, news cycle debating whether Trump should get any credit for the current economic successes. But think about it. Why can Obama take credit for what took place during his administration and job creation that began after, the job losses bottomed in December of 2009, but President Trump doesn't get to take any credit for job gains that have occurred on his watch, more than 6.5 million in the household survey. Here's the truth. Incumbents are always judged on the president's state of the economy. It's how the American people hold politicians accountable. Just ask Jimmy Carter and George H.W. Bush whether they thought the recessions had any, bearing on their failure to get reelected in 1992 as well as in 1980. Both of those incumbents lost their reelection campaigns because they had recessions going on when they were running for office again. And that led to Ronald Reagan and Bill Clinton both being elected. Both had recessions again occur in the first terms of their office, which turned out to be their last terms in office. No amount of blaming their predecessors, I think, would have made any difference when they were facing voters. Voters want to know, are things better off now than they were 4 years ago, as Ronald Reagan once famously said. And with President Trump, I think the answer is probably going to be yes. If the economy had entered, and this is important, into a recession during President Trump's watch, you can bet dollars to donuts that Democrats would be blaming President Trump for the present state of the economy. And it stands to reason that with the economy doing so well, therefore, and Americans becoming wealthier, that Trump will undoubtedly receive the lion's share of the credit when American people go to vote in November. Voters will point to the tax cuts, the deregulation, and the new, again, reciprocal trade deals with Mexico, Canada, China, South Korea, and Japan playing a key role in our economic success today. Obama didn't build that. He didn't do those things. At this point in 2012, in fact, the U.S. economy had not produced a single job. This is sad to say, but that's what was going on in 2012. The latest number would have been January of 2012. And that at this point in history. And at that point, there was 141.5 million people with jobs. But when Obama had come into office, there was 142.1 million people with jobs. So there was still about more than 500,000 of jobs losses. But the charts were pointed in the right direction. In December of 2009, the jobs bottomed out at 138 million, and they roared back 3.5 million by that time in 2012, January of 2012. And Obama would go on to get easily reelected against Mitt Romney because the charts were pointed in the right direction. Obama was judged on the present state of the economy in 2012, and in 2012, things were getting better, albeit slowly. It was a slow recovery. It wasn't a great recovery. But it was good enough to get Obama re-elected in 2012, and I think that's what's probably going to happen this year in 2020. The economy is doing really good. It's doing way better than Obama's economy was doing, whereas Obama had no job creation at this point in time in the presidency. President Trump has 6.5 million jobs created, 3.5% unemployment, the lowest in 50 years. And that's going to benefit Trump, undoubtedly, in the re-election campaign. Nobody thinks that, oh, that's all Obama's economy. That's not how voters evaluate incumbent presidents. It's just not the way it works. If the numbers had kept on sinking throughout Obama's first term, however, it probably could have been a one-term proposition, but that didn't happen. As it is, President Trump is doing really well with the economy, 6.5 million jobs created since January 2017, and the 50-year low of unemployment at 3.5%. The biggest gains have been amongst working age adults in job creation. And if you look at labor participation, it's very much recovering now from its lows in 2015 for prime working age adults. And you can see the number here. We're just getting back to pre-Great Recession levels on prime age employment, 25 to 54 years old. Participation rate is now up to 83.1%. When Trump came in, it was 81.5%. Now, the bottom after the Great Recession occurred in 2015 at 80.7%. So you went from 80.7 to 81.5 by the time Trump came into office. So there was a little bit of a recovery going on. And then it jumps up to over 83% in January of 2020. So there's clearly more participation. It's leading to more jobs. That represents about 2 million more people, prime working age, in the economy, basically participating, that otherwise wouldn't have been if the participation rate had remained the same. And Trump's going to get credit for that. Nobody should be surprised by that. But like contortionists, financial media and political media, the American people are somehow supposed to discount the gains made during the early Trump years because those are somehow Obama's accomplishments, even as Obama is able to take credit for job gains that began in December of 2009. The fact is, the American people will be judging President Trump on the present state of the economy when they go to the polls in November, not former President Obama. The only question that matters is, as Ronald Reagan once put it, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? And Trump has a good story to tell in 2020. Is that any really surprising to anyone in politics that when things are bad, the incumbents get blamed? When things are good, they tend to get credit. And I'll leave you with the close here. That's exactly what is happening right now. President Trump is getting credit in polls that you look at. If you look at the Real Clear Politics average of job approval on the economy, there's a 16-point spread. 55.7% of American people on average in these polls recently are approving of the president's performance in the economy, and only 39% are disapproving. And it's been like this for basically about 2 years now. The American people are very much been approving of how the economy is going, and that's going to help Trump in the election cycle. And that's and with 55% economic job approval, that's before even all of the early primaries on the Democratic nomination have even been completed, which leaves President Trump in a commanding position in the presidential race as the blue-collar economic boom continues taking place. Stay tuned. That's the commentary. This is Robert Romano, Vice President of Public Policy with Americans for Limited Government, dailytorch.com. Hit that subscribe button, ring the bell for notifications, and have a good day.